Hello and welcome to the Godot community. I am Jodian Henry and I am the PLC moderator for Middle School Theater. In this webinar, I'm going to go over a wealth of information in regards to best practices for the beginning of the semester or the school year, depending on when you're watching this video. So I will discuss tips on how to set up your classroom, regardless of what type of space your classroom is in. I'll also discuss a little bit of tips on how to create an ensemble or create a collaborative, creative classroom space, as well as tips on how to select materials that promote diversity and inclusion, whether for your season, for the semester, for the school year, or just when thinking of plays or scripts that your class will discuss or perform. So for your classroom, you might be in an auditorium space. You might be in a general classroom down the hall from social study classes, or you might be teaching virtually, or you might be in a nice black box theater space. And creating a welcoming classroom space, you want to think about where's your teaching station, where you'd place your desk, so you're able to view the entire class. You want to think about where is your designated performance space. You want to think about ways where you can organize your costumes, organize classroom supplies in a way to eliminate clutter in the room. You want to think about ways you're going to arrange your desk. So whether that's in a circular shape, or are you going to use desks at all? Would you like to use tables? What's a way you can arrange your classroom in a way that it allows for you to maximize the space, especially if you're in a small area? And if you're in a very large space, how can you allow for control so students aren't just all over the place and they can use the entire space when needed, but know where to sit, especially to maintain that classroom management control. Also, think about your classroom decor, whether or not you will display students' work throughout your classroom, whether or not you want to include pictures of your students, primarily vocabulary words that surround, or you want to use a lot of theater posters. So think about ways that you can create a space that the students feel welcomed, feel a part of, and can see themselves. You may have posters of different colleges, an audition, a section to give information. If you have a drama club, would you need to have a call board to post information about auditions and various events that are upcoming? And a way that you can arrange the layout of the room that allows for easy access and traffic flow in and out of the classroom, where students can get up from their table and come to you without constantly interrupting or being the way of other students. A space that allows for classroom engagement. So whenever you're having discussions and just trying to engage your classroom as a whole and trying to create this sense of ensemble, that the space also complements that. You may have your classroom in an auditorium space. You may be on an English hallway. You may be in a hallway with the social studies classes, or you may be in a black box theater space. So I'm going to go over just a few tips on how to set up your space to accommodate your students, to accommodate a performance space, as well as areas for you to store your costumes and different instructional materials for your classes. So come on a journey with me. Welcome to my classroom. So my classroom is on a general hallway. I am next door to the ISS room, and I have a few of the CTA classes down the hall. So I'm not in a performing arts wing. So I've chosen to organize my desk and my classroom decorations in a way
to still give students a feel of ownership in the space and still allow us to have a stage and performance area. So as you can see, I have my desk organized in almost like a thrust theater stage where we have them on all three sides. It leaves the center of the room open for us to do our warm-up, for students to do theater games, and also to present their acting scenes or any type of performance assignment. I also have the desk organized on the side, so whenever we are taking notes or having class discussion, we're still in sort of a circular formation where students feel included in the circle, and it's very hard for them to sort of hide out in different corners as well. I have lots of cabinets back here, so I've utilized the space to store paper and just various instructional materials that I may use for the class. I do not have a lot of storage space in here, so I have to be creative. So if you're in the same boat I am, you may be able to use, I have a storage closet back here, portable closet back here, where I may have costumes and other smaller prop items in that closet. If you have a space that can accommodate that, that would be a suggestion. Or you can use bins to kind of organize your props in one corner of the room, so it's out of the way, and it's not the students. The students don't have easy access to them. I also have a closet over here that I also store costumes and props and such as well. So you may have to be creative if you do not have access to another space to store your costumes or any types of props that your students may use. Another tip or suggestion in terms of organization. So for myself, I have 3 class periods for the day, and I have a bin assigned to each class. I have a bin assigned to each class where they can store their notebooks or submit assignments. It helps me to stay organized when they're submitting assignments, and it also allows the students to know exactly where to find their materials for the class, their notebook materials for the class. You may also want to have a designated teaching station, and that could be on either the front end of the room or the back end, a section of the room where you're able to see all the students at all times. So for myself, I am right next to the Promethean board in my classroom. So I'm able to have open access to all my students that are entering the classroom. I'm also able to keep accountability of them entering and exiting the room as well. As far as my decor, I love to allow students to have a sense of ownership, and to give my class a little personality, I have my students' work displayed on the walls in the room. Any type of project and stuff, I'll have them around the room. I also have theater quotes as a part of my classroom decor that we may use as reference for various activities, or I also use them to spark conversation and discussions in the class. You may also find yourself having class in an auditorium space. So here are just some tips how to organize the space as well. I would suggest having a designated area in the auditorium where students can be seated as they enter the room. As you can see, it's a vast space, and having 30 or more middle school students coming into your classroom, they're ready to play and run around. So you do want to have a specific area that students know when they come into class, this is where we sit. I would recommend either the house right or house left section of the space. I would also suggest having some type of whiteboard or portable board that you can use in terms of moments where you need to give notes or give instruction. Or you can use a big post-it notes that I have here, where you can take it with you or store it safely somewhere in the space. As far as the stage area, of course, students can use this for performances. You may also decide to have your students seated in like a circular shape at the beginning of class instead of using the seats or in the auditorium space. So they can start off class here, go right into a warm up or improv or whatever your opener is for the day. I would also suggest making sure that you have the doors locked and monitored, because in such a large space where students have multiple ways of entering and exiting the room, it's important to just have a designated door where this is where we enter and exit the classroom, just as they would if they were in a general classroom space, and keeping all the other doors locked.